Everybody ready? Thank you. Okay. This is the first session of the Committee on Human Services and Social Services. The date is February 5th, 2013. We're at the White County Building in Hilo. The time is 12:01 p.m. Please turn off all cell phones, pagers, and other mobile communication devices, or put them on silent mode. Thank you. And I'll call this meeting to order. Are there any statements from the public on items on the agenda? Kona?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. No, there's not any testifiers today.
Thank you. Are there any in Waimea?
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Yes, we have one testifier, Joel Cohen, on Communication 92.
What community
You may
is
go
this?
ahead with your testifying.
Health and Human Services, the purple one.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sorry.
I am testifying basically in support, these are my own opinions, and basically in support of a number of people on this island that passionately spend a lot of time and energy involved in the nonprofit organization process. People that literally dedicate their lives sometimes, putting in major amounts of time and energy. It's really about community, for community. And we very much appreciate the support of the County of Hawaii in providing funds through the nonprofit process. We do what we can, many of our organizations do what we can to raise our own funds through fundraisers, generous contributions from the community. And we go after funding, of course, for other grant processes and foundations and so forth. It's critical to us to be able to have sustainable funding over a long period of time and be able to rely on certain organizations, or in the case, government agencies, to keep us going. Many of us organizations basically go paycheck to paycheck in paying our staff, who, if you want to become wealthy, that is not the occupation to be in, to be working for a nonprofit, obviously. There's so much energy out there, so much to be done, and we need your continued support, for sure. I have a couple of things that I just wanted to go over, some comments on the evaluation process. I believe it's important to give priority to communities that are, or organizations that are really making an effort to get funding other than the county nonprofit, as they're out there fundraising and making a genuine effort to get the community involved.
You have 30 seconds.
And it's important that there are certain, what we might call gaps in services that the county can provide, that in fact nonprofits can do a better job, and certainly do it more with less money. It's important that all of us, County Parks and Recreation, other agencies in the schools and so forth, we all work together in collaboration. And within the scope of the grant proposal, I think that's something important to consider. Mahalo for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there any testifiers in Pahoa?
No, ma'am, there are no testifiers for your committee this afternoon.
Thank you. Are there any testifiers in Ka'u?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. There are no testifiers
Thank you.
for your committee.
We have one testifier here in Hilo, Mr. Mark McNett.
Good afternoon. The nonprofit grant review process, as pointed out by the one-term council person the phenomenal Miss Brittany Smart had one problem of the annual reports. And she had some fairly stringent measures in mind that were proposed to require that. And just as a personal point of view, I did have a nonprofit here a few years ago, and it was a pure nonprofit, zero cash in, zero cash out, with some phenomenal results, well up in the 7 figures. And just to say, in support of the nonprofits, to which there are grants given, and to those who operate without government funding, the state DCCA was a problem for me because the first year, the state legislature passed a law forbidding any longer a single person from creating a nonprofit and being the chief executive officer, the treasurer, and the secretary. You had to have a minimum of 3 people. And they send you notices, yearly report, and they refuse to accept it. Cash the check. And we're very, recalcitrant, so I just said, okay, forget it. I'll dissolve it, fill out the form, paid for that. They refused to accept the dissolution. So for several years, I was listed on the website as being expired and some other thing, which doesn't look good when a bank looks at it. So I know a lot of other people who have had nonprofits, and they've had them for years. They've never sent in annual reports, and they're single-person nonprofits. So I believe that was just a case of discrimination, which gave me a pretty good airtight case, but I never did anything with it. I just decided to go back to being an individual and doing the same things. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I see no other testifiers, so Mr. Clerk, will you please read Communication 92?
Communication 92, fiscal year 2013-2014 nonprofit grant review process and formation of an ad hoc committee from Human Services and Social Services Committee Chair Karen Eoff, dated January 16, 2013, describing the nonprofit grant review process as requesting formation of an ad hoc committee pursuant to HRS section 92-2.5B. The ad hoc committee is expected to conduct reviews and interviews of applicants for the county's annual nonprofit grant awards and to make a report back to the full council.
Thank you. Before I take a motion to file the communication, I'd like to make a correction to the agenda for the record. It should have read that the ad hoc committee reports back to the Human Services and Social Services Committee, not to the full council. So the agenda is being corrected for the record to replace full council with this committee. Thank you. Can I have a motion to close file on Communication 92?
So moved.
Thank you. And before going into the discussion, I would like to ask John Henricks from our Legislative Research Branch to give us a quick general overview of the ad hoc committee process.
Good afternoon, John Henricks, Legislative Research Branch, members of the committee. Generally speaking, information is located in Communication 92 for the most part. What allows the council to form a smaller group to do work on its behalf is in our state law, which basically says that at least 2, and in the case of the council, no more than 4, may form a committee, provided it's done in a meeting like this, an open session, to perform investigative work for it on its behalf. And that's what we're doing here today. It's basically a 3-step process. It's also located in our council rules, rule number 7, which expands a little bit on 92-2.5B to give more specifics on how the council or one of its committees can do so to create one of these ad hoc committees. But essentially the first part of the 3 steps is being accomplished today, which is formation, describing the roles of the members, electing a chair, and then basically stating what the purpose of the committee is and what the responsibilities are. When the committee completes its work, the ad hoc committee that is, they'll provide a report back to this committee. At that time, that report will be a form of communication. This committee will not act on it because the state law and our rules are clear that they present the report, basically sit on it, just to put it out there for public information, and then at a subsequent meeting, the following meeting, you would then deliberate on the report from the committee and its recommendations, and then vote to approve them at that time. So basically, what you're doing today is creating a small group of people that can go ahead and do work for the council, and really they're pretty much unfettered in that activity. You guys will do, for this purpose specifically, interviews and site visits. They're not constrained like any other actions of the council. They don't have to be publicly noticed necessarily, and it's not considered an actual meeting of the council. So it gives a much more flexibility for this committee to do its work.
Thank you. A little bit of background about the nonprofit process. Per section 2-139 of the Hawaii County Code, as was recently amended, we will have at least $1 million to distribute to the eligible nonprofit organizations. The deadline for submitting applications for the nonprofit funds to the Finance Department was January 31st, and informally I've heard we've had over approximately 120 applications received. And I'd like to thank Budget Administrator Ted Schrey from the Finance Department for receiving those applications and assisting the applicants by answering questions regarding the submissions and the required documents, and also staff from my office and other council members' offices who have helped some of these people with their applications. This committee will receive copies of the applications by our March 12th meeting, and that will be prior to our scheduled interviews and site visits. But today, pursuant to Council Rule number 7, I would like to form the ad hoc committee. The scope of the ad hoc committee is to review the applications from the agencies who have applied for funding. The committee will conduct interviews, perform site visits as determined appropriate, and present its recommendations for award amounts to the Human Services and Social Services Committee on April 16th. At this time, I would like to recommend that the ad hoc committee be made up of myself as chair, along with Ms. Poindexter, who is the vice chair of this committee, Mr. Ilagan, and Mr. Onishi, if they are willing to serve. Is there any discussion at this time? Ms. Willie?
I just want to say that I support this very much, and I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you. Mr. Kern?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too agree with this. I think it's a good formation of the committee. Do we need to formally nominate, or should I make a motion to? What's the process?
Yeah. Well, if there's no objections to the members that I've suggested, then the ad hoc committee will hold its first meeting on February 19th after our regularly scheduled meetings in West Hawaii, and I'll get back to you with the date and the time specific. And if there is no more discussion at this time, the motion that I would request is to postpone communication 92. Oh, I'm sorry.
I believe Mr. Kern needed some information as to, does your appointment of these 4 people with no objections from anyone constitute sufficient membership in the committee, or does a motion need to be made?
I believe it's sufficient, but we can check with Mr. Hendricks.
John Hendricks, Legislative Research Branch. On the question if a motion is required, our council rules state that the chairperson of the council, or a standing committee in this case, in accordance with these rules and the law, may establish an ad hoc committee as needed for the purpose of investigating a matter relating to the official business of the council or standing committee. So it's fairly clear to me that the chairperson of this committee is doing so, establishing it. If there were any objections, I think the proper thing to do would be to call for a motion for a vote if there were, just out of deference for your fellow committee members. But if there aren't, the statement that you made for the record, the other council members, committee members recognizing who those members are without objections is sufficient to establish the committee.
Are there any objections to establishing the committee? Okay, thank you. Then if there's no more discussion, I would request a motion to postpone communication 92 to the April 16th meeting.
Moved. Second.
Thank you. Can we take a vote? Oh, I'm sorry, is there any discussion? And after the vote, then, after we postpone to the meeting, we will, again hear this item, and then it'll again be postponed to the April 30th meeting. Mr. Clerk? On motion to postpone.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Ilagan?
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha?
Aye.
Mr. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Onishi?
Aye.
Ms. Poindexter?
Aye.
Ms. Willie?
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto?
Aye.
Chair Eoff?
Aye.
Chair Eoff, you have 9 ayes on your motion to postpone.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.